This is GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW, flyers. That is, 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 6-1, entitled Masculism as Heavy Moralistic Pressure on Fluffies. Description. This flyer claims that as more MGTOW/masculist influenced men become disgusted with fluffy financial parasitism on men, they will refuse to fuck them, thus setting up a positive circle for men, as the moral pressure on fluffy forces more of them to become FIPs. Men will increasingly fuck FIP women only, pushing up the moral pressure on fluffies even more until they get wiped out, the primary political masculist goal. Flyer itself. Masculism as heavy moralistic pressure on fluffies. Having written over 50 odd of these flyers, well, it's now about 200, mid 2017 or so, filming this now, I notice an evolution in my thinking about these issues. I'm retired. I'm arcing after retirement careering. So most afternoons I go to the park with my camp chair and grad level math texts and study them. I also let my mind wander on masculist/MGTOW issues and see what bubbles up to the surface. Today what came up was my heavy indignation against fluffies and their awful parasitism, abusing men heavily, and how immoral they are. Think about it. What is a fluffy doing and thinking? She's a lazy parasite. She does not have the expectation, nor makes the effort to get a FIP major education, that is, studying math and the sciences at high school, so that she can enter a FIP major department at university, so that she can study one of the professions, for example, medicine, dentistry, law, architecture, etc., or one of the techs, computer science, economics, math, physics, chemistry, geology, etc., to become a FIP, financially independent person, as an adult, so that she can earn good money and not parasite off some manslave robot male in her 30s when she wants to live in a middle-class house and raise her kids before her biological clock stops ticking by the time she reaches 40. A fluffy is a lazy and horribly immoral. She expects men to be manslaves to her, to work for her, so that she can afford to be lazy at high school and college. A young fluffy is at the height of her sexual attractiveness in her 20s and takes it for granted that young men will drool all over her, trying to get their penises into her cunt. She feels she can manipulate these robot males, aka also known as simps, into becoming manslaves for her. This attitude of fluffies is pathological. These fluffies don't care about the men they abuse, whom they exploit, rob, cheat, and a decade later, when they are utterly bored by their manslave husband, they will take advantage of the fluffy feminist-dominated divorce court system to financially massacre him by taking his children, taking his house that he pays for, forcing him to pay child support for decades, and since she is a fluffy, he's forced to pay alimony to her, perhaps for the rest of his life, that she can continue to parasite on him after the divorce the same way she did before the divorce. This type of behaviour is so contemptible as seen by masculists/MGTOWs that one can readily understand why MGTOW/masculists have such a hatred of fluffies, who are labelled immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin. The primary political goal of the masculist is to wipe out fluffydom, the way the abolitionists of the 1800s aimed to wipe out Negro slavery in the South in the US. It took a civil war to do that, but the abolitionists succeeded. MGTOW/masculists don't need a war to wipe out fluffydom, that is, wipe out fluffies, because fluffies don't need to be physically killed. They only need to be ignored by men. One of the ace cards that men have over women, over fluffies, is that men are traditionally socialised to be FIPs, whereas only a minority of women are real FIPs, having studied FIP majors at high school and college. So we men, if we decide to, can wipe out fluffies simply by refusing to have anything to do with them. Critical idea. A fluffie can only be a fluffie if some manslave is prepared to be parasited upon by her. As the supply of such manslaves dries up due to the MGTOW/masculist influence, fluffies get wiped out. Fluffies can rot on the shelf to extinction. They will be manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, poor, and shunned by society, even by most other women who agree with the men's libbers that fluffydom is profoundly immoral and parasitic on men. As more and more men wake up to the concept of manslavery, that marriage has become toxic for males, given that roughly one married father in 4 will be financially massacred in the fluffy feminist-dominated divorce court system in the US. They react by becoming disgusted by fluffies and avoid them, sneering at them and putting heavy moral pressure on them to become FIPs, or they just won't get a man. Marriage is now seen in the US to be so toxic to men that 70% of young men under 35 refuse to marry and have kids, so most young women will not get married, nor have a kid. As MGTOW/masculist ideas spread and spread, the proportion of men who are prepared to be manslaves will keep dropping, probably to below 10% within a decade. So the majority of women will not have babies, and the population will crash to the point that the whole US population will be wiped out in less than a century. Do the math. But as more and more men learn to be utterly disgusted by the immorality of fluffy parasitism, they won't even fuck fluffies. They will ignore them completely, preferring to fuck FIP women. I define MGTOW as a group of men who refuse to marry and have kids, who spend their money on themselves and doing what they love. MGTOWs then have the possibility of working hard, saving hard, living frugally and investing heavily so that they can retire in their 40s and then spend the rest of their lives arcing, that's after retirement careering, doing what they love doing, that is, being free of wage slavery and certainly free of manslavery. These arcing MGTOW/masculists may then migrate to a poor third world country where the cost of living is much lower and retire even earlier on their purchasing power enhanced nest egg. Some MGTOWs are so pissed off with women's psychology, women's solipsism, their hypergamy, their feminist arrogance, that they don't even sex women. They live like MGTOW monks. Most MGTOWs, however, still sex women, but as the level of MGTOW/masculist disgust against fluffies rises and rises, these men's libbers will have an easier time of sexing only fit women, thus putting more moral pressure on fluffies to convert themselves into FIPs and have the moral attitudes of FIPs. That is, they expect that women should pull their financial weight and definitely not parasite off a manslave. MGTOW/masculists who do want to sex women or to sex one woman on a regular basis can live the so-called tway-twef lifestyle, that is 2A, 2F equals 2 apartments, 2 FIPs, that is the man and the woman are both FIPs, having their own apartment each. When the relationship goes sour, as most do, they both walk away to their own apartments, cost-free to the man. The great advantage of tway-tweffing to a man is that it puts constant psychological pressure on his fit girlfriend to be nice to him, because if she lets her true female nature surface, trying to manipulate him, to nag him, be obnoxious to him, then he just walks away, cost-free, so easily. This ease of ending the relationship keeps the woman being nice to him, so she is in constant fear that if she gets dumped, she will have to compete with an army of boyfriendless women due to the terrible man shortage. So MGTOW/masculists have a powerful weapon in tway-tweffing that they can use against the fluffies. They can tell the fluffies in the form of a slogan, in capital letters, "We won't even fuck you." Fluffies will lose their ace card, that is, their vaginas, because they will be replaced by fit women. As the proportion of men who adopt MGTOW/masculist ideas rises and rises, fluffies will have an impossible time trying to find men to even fuck them. Not only will they not find husbands and men willing to father their children, they won't even find a man who wants to fuck them. These fluffies will be passed over by most men in favour of sexing fit women only. This preference of MGTOW/masculist men sets up a dynamic that runs to saturation in a positive circle. The more men who become disgusted by fluffy parasitism and exploitative manslavery and openly express their disgust, the more fluffy women will become FIPs. The more fit women there are, the more fit women exist for masculist/MGTOW-minded men to fuck. This will deplete the number of men willing to fuck fluffies, so the moral pressure on fluffies rises even more. As the MGTOW/masculist message gets out into society more men will express their contempt for fluffies openly and vigorously, so that fluffies really feel the moral pressure. As the proportion of men who are influenced by MGTOW/masculist ideas grows to the vast majority, then society will be filled with angry, bitter, male, moralistic pressure against fluffies. Men will hurl insults at them, making them feel like dirt, as of course they are, as seen through MGTOW/masculist eyes. Fluffy feminists will be stopped in their tracks by very angry masculist MGTOWs who hurl back MGTOW/masculist rhetoric with such venom and male force that fluffy feminists will start to feel real fear that a major social force, a new male whirlwind, is brewing, and that they had better shut up if they want to stay physically safe. I'm predicting that the moralistic pressure on fluffies will rise and rise until they're utterly shunned by society, by both sexes, even by fit women, until every young woman feels compelled to become a responsible careerist, pulling her own financial weight. She knows that if she doesn't become a FIP, not only won't she find a husband, not only won't she have a baby, she won't even be fucked. Men will have plenty of fit women they can fuck instead. This positive circle for men will run to saturation until the grand goal of the masculist to wipe out fluffydom is finally achieved. Once all women are FIPs, so many of the male gender problems evaporate. For example, the divorce courts get men fared, the paternity rejection rights is legislated, gender laws that are prejudiced against men are reformed across the board, etc. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Website, email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name De Garis, Masculist, MGTOW, Flyers. Ciao.